Hey, this is the Hobo Script, and I'm Topher, the Paranormal Hobo. This is where we talk indie, horror, movies, anything that's bumping the night and scary. We talk about it right here. I have with me Kyle Rayburn, and we're going to talk Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio and a lot more right here on the Crypt. Hey, Kyle, what's happening?
Topher, what is up, man? Thank you so much for letting me come on and chin wag with you here.
Well, I appreciate your stuff is like on the mouth of everybody that I've talked to. Like they were like, "Oh, have you seen this yet? Have you seen it? Oh, I just got a copy."
So weird.
So of course, Jason starts it off, and then like Kyle was talking about it. Several others who have was talking about it. It's just so I had to literally I was like, "Hey, would you mind coming in?" Everybody that I know is talking. So let's talk about this. First of all, introduce yourself for whoever might not be aware.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. My name is Kyle Rayburn. I work with a small team of friends and wives. I guess there are two of them. We're from Delaware, and we kind of got into this in like 2017. So yeah, we're the Midnight Film Company. We've made two films now. Our first one was called Night Work. And then our second film just came out over the last few months, Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio, or Satanic Soccer Mom from Hell. I've heard that. I've heard Satanic Soccer Moms, plural, from Ohio. So I think it's fun that I hear like variations of what people think the title is.
So what got you interested in making movies? Like, was there one thing that jumped out at you, or?
Yeah, actually, it started a long time ago. And I know we were talking about this earlier, but I know that your depth of indie filmmaking knowledge is far superior to mine. But mine actually started way back in the day when I was a kid. I met this kid, and he had a sort of a stepdad who was into film, and he had cameras and stuff like that, and always wanted to make a movie. And he had editing, non-linear editing at the time. So he was doing
like at that, like,
yeah.
yeah.
So his name is Patrick Desmond. And you might know Patrick's name just from, way back in the day. Hasn't done much lately, but he worked with, I think it's Wolf Muscle. He did Farmer's Daughters, which was actually Elliot Church's first indie film. But Pat made a movie when I was a kid called The Absence of Light. And it's extremely difficult to find these days, but it had Tony Todd in it, David Hess, Tom Savini, Michael Berryman. If you can get a copy of it, it's kind of one of those things you have to see as an indie guy. Pat made this on a shoestring budget. It took him, 10 years to complete, but it's called The Absence of Light. And we got to kind of see little parts of that coming to life. And it was just really exhilarating to kind of know that Pat was going to be driving to Pittsburgh to meet Savini to film like a scene. And so we kind of got to see the footage before anybody else. And that kind of really jazzed us up. And I think
I could see that totally being like, oh, look what people can do. Like, seriously.
Yeah. And he was just shooting on like a Sony XL1, like back in the day. I mean, and that was like a $4,000 camera back in probably 95 or 6. So he was all in. But what was funny is that was the ignition, and then there was a few sparks between then and Night Work, but it really took a long time for kind of myself and the other gentleman that helps me out make these, Ben Rieger, to find each other and kind of come together after almost 20 years later, 25 years later of knowing each other off and on and having that love for filmmaking for it to all kind of culminate to become the Midnight Film Company.
Oh yeah, the being that close to this, growing up and seeing that, you were like there watching at still the height of the like the blockbuster era of like when you had like indie films and indie stuff that literally could get into Blockbuster and all of those video rental places and
Yeah,
whatnot.
schlock.
Um,
We called
oh
it
yeah.
ankle high horror. Like if you looked any higher than your ankles, you were missing the good stuff. And it was always available, and that's what we went for. You know what I mean? Because you could.
Oh yeah.
So I love that you brought up Blockbuster. That's funny. That's great.
But do you think that that's something that we miss now as being an indie um, filmmakers and whatnot? We don't have that outlet that they did. I think like as soon as the turn of the millennium is when that kind of started to go away. Like that was gone.
Yeah, I actually
Um,
remember kind of, seeing what Pat went through with trying to get Absence of Light, distributed. And I think he got it through like Lion Film or something out of like Gahanna, Ohio, which, I'm from Delaware originally, which is like the center of Ohio. But I think that now I feel like people have it easier almost because, nothing went viral back then. It would
right.
take you months to sell, copies of your movies at like Cinema Wasteland or like Horror Hound or Mid Ohio comic book convention. So now I feel like you can put something out into the world, and overnight you could just find a huge audience. So even though we
Yeah, I
miss,
see that. I see that. The my question would kind of on that thing is it seems to be now that everything is so inexpensive, like the barrier is no longer you have to max out a credit card in order to
sure,
get the stuff to do this. Like are you starting to see the bar raise up again uh for like getting into Tubi, Netflix, any of the like um I don't know. I just see for me, or from my perspective, it just seems to when the glut and everybody was making movies like in the very beginning, like you can get on Amazon Prime,
sure.
and you had a huge influx of indie movies that were actually getting, but that got voted out by the main movie watchers who aren't used to indie films and whatnot. That got pushed almost to the side, and now it's you have to have a distributor to get a good deal with Amazon or
I think I'm a
whatnot.
really bad person to ask that question to because I have no like experience in that field. I think it's kind of
Right.
fun that our two movies are kind of like, the underground. We're still very underground. You know what I mean? Even though we have who we have in Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio, like it's still kind of this fun thing that you got to try to get your hands on because we're just not good at putting it out there into the world. Like, when I heard what you were doing before we were talking, with the instant prints and stuff, with the Blu-rays and stuff, and having a website, we're just not that functional. we're just more about really trying to make it fun. And
It's more about the having the movie and whatnot than it is like putting it out there right now.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I do see what you're saying, and I think that he did have it. No one maxed out any credit cards to make this movie. Actually, we made night work on an iPhone 8 Plus, and Satanic Soccer Mom was shot on the 12 Pro Max using
I,
Filmic app and everything. So I don't know if you could. I don't, did you?
I couldn't tell honestly. I was looking at going like they shot this on an iPhone. Like
Mhm.
I can barely like I have like we have decent equipment. I
Yeah.
tried to do the phone camera stuff. I tried with an iPad and just other stuff, and never I could never get it to look as good as you got uh this. Like it's
Wow, thank you.
nice and
Yeah,
clear.
I think a lot of it has to do with the app that we used while we were shooting because we weren't shooting directly through the iPhone interface. It wasn't through that. It was actually an app that I got because that's what Steven Soderbergh shot Unsane on. Do you remember when he
Mhm.
shot that movie on the 7 Plus?
Oh yeah.
And he was kind of in this frame of mind where he was never going to go back to shooting anything like on a big format because it stifled his process. He loved the monitor the way it looked. Obviously, he had way more post production gadgets than I'll ever wield
Right.
to make it to give it that color grading. Satanic Soccer Mom did not go through color grading. I literally edited that movie in iMovie. There's no Adobe Vegas. There's none of that stuff because for me again, um, I had gone to broadcasting school and learned some editing stuff, but I didn't want that to take any sort of joy out of what I knew, was going to be the final
Right.
product of the movie, because it's a lot of dark hour rooms, as you know, where you're sitting there, second guessing yourselves. Does the joke land? Blah, blah, blah. So I didn't want any sort of fancy editing gear that I had to kind of re-educate myself with. And so until I get to the point where I know I want to take it to the next level, I'll continue to make iPhone movies and be just that happy guy in the corner making films.
So, like I said, it looked fantastic, and I
Thank
just only imagine the ability to get into spaces when you only have a phone versus like a full camera with lens kit and battery packs
Yeah.
and the monitors that are, you know, just for the
Yeah.
cinematographer to see. Like having all of that set up takes up a lot of real estate. So,
Yeah. And time.
oh yeah.
So yeah, I think that it's a format that's right for me and my team, and I think that the format lends itself better to actors' performances because there's no downtime. We are rocking and rolling, and they love that. Like I'm not gonna, I shit you not, Topher. I spent more time lighting this room today than I spent any amount of time lighting while we were shooting, because I was in a situation where I was watching a production being shot, and I saw the energy level go from just everyone was super juiced and ready to go and have fun with it and do it. And 3 hours later, the room had been sucked dry, and they
Yeah.
had barely gotten anything done because they're setting up cameras, they're bringing in equipment to set lights, and the actors just lose momentum so quickly, and so do the directors and everyone else. So we plan. It's not like we're completely going in blind, and obviously with Satanic Soccer Mom, we had such an extraordinary cast to pull from. I knew that it was going to be even easier to shoot this because they were going to come in and crush it. And very rarely do I get involved with their performances. And so just to be able to shoot and go, and let me tell you, this thing will shoot for 8 hours, no questions asked.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like I turn the screen brightness way down, and it just rock and rolls all day. And we shoot with two of them, so we can just go and go and go. And the phone camera just it lets in as much light as it needs, and we don't have to worry about. Well, it's kind of a fix it in post mentality with us, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad that it didn't hinder your experience with the movie.
No,
Uh,
no, I actually like watching it knowing that ahead of time. I was just like trying to see
wait,
anything that would tell me that it wasn't like it felt like you were rocking
like a
a,
black cinema cam. Yeah,
a decent little camera,
yeah,
even if it was like maybe a pocket cinema or something, something that felt like the same.
sure, sure. I just think that people should stop worrying about what they're shooting on. Obviously, if you have a goal to want to put something on Amazon or Netflix, obviously you have to meet all these camera
The,
specs and all that
yeah,
stuff.
their criteria for codec and
Sure. And that's fine.
uh,
If you want to live in that world, I can't wait to see what you're doing, because you're probably way better at it than I am. We are going to exist in a space that's just fun and fast, and we get it done, and we don't ask people for money up front. And I think iPhone is only going to get better. I'm actually just waiting for the day that Apple announces like their first actual movie camera. I'll be the first guy
well,
in line.
well, I have the 14 plus, and it's pretty much a camera that happens to be a phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just been so you got me looking at that going, oh well, I wonder.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, I'm actually, for this video, I'm using just like my Mac computer, but they just have just such a great, easy to use interface. It
Mhm.
doesn't hinder anybody who has no idea. Like, if someone really had a passion inside them to make a movie, but the one thing that was sort of roadblocking them was learning the tricks of a camera or meeting somebody who was going to shoot it for you, it's still very time consuming, and it just completely shuts down the process. But when you have something, I mean, I'm literally shooting B-roll everywhere I go for future projects. In fact, the opening of the movie Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio, the opening title credits, my wife and I were just literally driving from Ohio to Indiana to visit my dad, and there's that huge windmill field along that piece of road. The sky was beautiful outside, and I just set the iPhone on the side of the door and just let it roll. And I mean,
it was really, that part was really smooth too. Like,
yeah, and that's one shot.
Was that in Indiana that you were shooting that set?
Well, we were moving between Ohio into Indiana.
I was gonna say, because like Indiana roads would not allow you to get that clean a
well
that
again
clean a shot.
Again, a lot of it has to do with the stabilization technology that's already built into the phone, plus the filmmaking app that we're using. It was like a $30 app, I think, when it first came out. And the only reason I knew about it is because Soderbergh had mentioned it in an article when I was reading about Unsane. So I went for it. It actually allows you to manually put the iPhone in and out of focus, which you can't do manually. So it's just a piece of software that just allows you to come up with, more creative shots and have a little bit more control over, focus and stuff like that. So it was like I said, it was just a format that I knew I would be comfortable with. And it was such a great transition from getting the footage from point A to point B, which was the editing process, and it was flawless. So yeah, that's why I don't mind being the iPhone, horror comedy movie guy. I will relish in that realm until someone kicks me out.
No, like I said, like you did it well enough that if you hadn't have told me, or was it you that told me, or somebody told me that you did it on an iPhone, I would not have known.
Right.
So
yeah, I think it really is getting to that point where it becomes an actual viable, even if it's a proof of concept tool for people who are more serious about making stuff, like some of my influence, like Scott Shermer, Tony Wash, Brian Williams, even Brian Papandrea at Rock Bottom. Those guys just have been making great stuff for so long. It's got to be super easy to just pick up anything for them and shoot with what they want, because I think Brian does a lot of his stuff on video. And I think that everyone else operates at a much higher level, but I think it's great that there's a tool for everyone to be able to make something like what we've done, like Nightwork and Satanic. So yeah.
So let's go ahead. We've been talking about it. Let's give everybody a taste.
Oh,
here's the trailer for Satanic. Huh?
Always wanted to say that. I brought a clip.
There you go. Let's go ahead and check out the trailer. This is Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio.
Coming this 2022 maybe, whenever. A soccer mom from Indiana, a soccer mom from Ohio summons a demon from hell. Starring Grace Plazoles Hayes.
For a demon, I thought you'd be a lot cooler.
Brian Papandrea. Ellie Church. Jason Crow.
Bitch.
Susan Martin.
Hi, Kyle.
And introducing Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio. Check it out. If it ever gets released.
All right, that was Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio. Given like how fun everything looks and how things are going, like, where does that come from? Like, is there any inspiration that you're drawing from for like, what has been your inspirations for making these movies?
Yeah, I think again, it did start off early when I was a younger guy. But I think, seeing movies from Brian Williams, like Space Babes, I think really kicked it off, like at a big level.
That was a fun movie.
I was at Days of the Dead in Indiana when it was the world premiere. And at the end of the premiere, Brian got up and gave like a little, speech that I'm sure he hated to do. But he just said, pick up something and go make a movie. Like just go and make art,
Go do it.
And so that was it. I had this long idea of what ended up being, sorry, shameless plug, Night Work. So Night Work was the first one we did. And so, yeah, I just went for it. And I thought, well, I mean, Apple's making these commercials about the iPhone being a movie camera. And so I was like, yeah, so let's do it. So I think him and what Scott were doing in Indiana were a big influence because like I'm a Midwestern guy. So Horror Hound's right there in my backyard in Sharonville. So I instantly got to tap into this big sort of pond of just talent and just started, being mesmerized that these guys were operating at this level, even though, say like Plank Face. I don't think Plank Face probably cost more than 10 grand to make, because they were just so smart about it and they had all the talent. But when you look at it, it looks like a $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 movie. So I think it was exciting to me to kind of get that thrill of indie filmmaking again. So that's kind of where the influence comes from. I would say also like movies like Little Monsters from the late 80s, early 90s, and then the TV series Weeds. So I thought, what if a demon walked into Nancy Botwin's kitchen? Like, because she handles all of these tough guys really well, and she's just so cool and calm collected. So I really wanted to take the essence of that character and transplant it into like a little monster situation. And that's where Satanic Soccer Mom came from. And my good friend Ben Rieger back in Delaware, he actually put everything together. He wrote the script because I challenged him to do so. He had never written a script before. So he put all the bones and all the meat on it. And then him and I and the actors kind of just punched it up as a team, and it kind of became what it is today.
That's awesome. So like you talked about like Space Babes and all that. Like, so what are you watching right now?
Yeah, what am I watching? So honestly, I'm waiting for my copy of Spirit Animal from Madeline Deering. I'm excited about that. I actually one of the last indie things we watched was Kyle Putra's film, The Grim Findings of Claudius, which we love that. It was just so good to see those two actors back in the same space again, and how weird and fun it was to watch that whole thing unfold. So yeah, we were watching that. But honestly, the one thing I'm the most excited about right now is Last of Us on HBO. So, Sunday was amazing. I played the games multiple times. That's what I've been watching. But yeah, I guess I'm a Midwestern snob when it comes to indie horror. I just stay like where I know it's going to be good. You were talking about before we hopped on here about, the crews out of like Missouri, and, there's just such a huge world of indie film that's out there that I'm just not privy to, but I want to expand. It's kind of one of those things where once you get into like a little grouping, you just know where you want to see next, especially like Brian's new movie, Feast or Sunday. You just know when people like that are putting out stuff, you're going to have a good time, and it's money well spent. So that's kind of why I tend to stick where it's good.
I mean, like with Scott Shermer, well, you got like Found, and then Harvest Lake, and Bad Man, and all the like.
So good.
I watched Harvest Lake first, and then I watched Found.
Okay.
Because of Jason Crow, his name came up, so I was like, oh well, I'm going to check this out.
Harvest is really good. So it's not for everybody, but it is sexy in a weird way, like in a Lovecraftian sort of way.
That's what hit me. I'm a very big Lovecraftian horror person.
It's well acted. It's well shot. The music is beautiful. Like, it's just one of those movies where I actually got to see that at Horror Hound at the world premiere. And I mean, it's just, it's just things like that get people into filmmaking. When you're sitting in a room and
with the people who did it,
most of the times
yeah.
There's nothing else like it on earth, because especially as the artist who's making it. I mean, I wanted to experience what they were going through for, that whole thing. I'm like, that has to be the best drug on earth. It's like being a stand-up comedian, but being completely out of control of your own set. It's like having a stand-up videotaped and then shown to an audience, but you're not in control. You just have to watch it, and you have to react to the crowd reacting. And I think it's just a very interesting process. And I think that's why we put ourselves through these things, is just for that one night where everyone feels like $1 million and the energy's high. And then, you kind of go back to your hole and like, let's start over and try to do that again.
Let's figure out how to do this again.
Exactly.
The horror community, like you don't have, you have sci-fi conventions and stuff like that, but you don't have a comedy convention. I think I was talking about this with Jason. What is it about horror that you think that the people are so like loyal and dedicated? Like they will travel across the country to go see Michael Berryman sign on autographs and this, that, and the other, where like there is no drama convention. There's no, comedy. There's no thriller convention there. That kind of folds into horror, but it's, what do you think is there that captures people?
Yeah, I think that everyone loves comedies, everyone loves dramas, but not everybody loves horror. Whether it's horror comedy, where it's whatever the form is. So I think that when you go to a convention, and let's say maybe you did drive 3 hours from a little part of the place that no one knew existed, and you get to this place that's a horror convention, and all of a sudden you see people that are like you, that are into the same things as you. I just think that there's a huge like connective tissue that is just more transparent in the horror community than it is anywhere else. I'll be 42 this year, so I'm kind of what they would call an old head when it comes to horror.
Me too.
Yeah. So, I grew up on, just all these different things that have really been forgotten except by people like us. But I'm trying to bring some of that back, some of that just cheesy 80s. I know you can't see it, but I have a Hunk poster behind me, which is from 1987. It's a big inspiration for Satanic Soccer Mom, but yeah, it's just one of those movies where you probably never knew it existed. It's about a guy who sells his soul to a female devil for the summer to have a rockin' body, and it's super cheesy and super fun. And they just don't like and also like The Gate. As a kid, I loved
The Gate was like, I still watch The Gate. Like,
that's amazing.
I found it on a streaming service, and I was like,
yeah.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh yeah. So, there were just things like that with a lot of practical effects. We knew we couldn't afford a lot for Satanic Soccer Mom, but we knew we had to have the makeup good enough to where it kind of looks cheesy, but then when you get close, it actually looks pretty good. So that's why we got Todd Reed involved. And once Brian got put into that makeup, it was like it's just like you don't have to do anything but just say go, So Grace and Brian were fantastic together once you put them together, and especially Brian in that makeup. It's just like unleashing a bull. You know what I mean? Even though he had a really terrible time getting out of that makeup, because we shot everything you saw in makeup in one day, in 16 hours.
So any of it like left like red marks on his face when
it was more the fingernails. The fake fingernails refused to come off, and it was to the point where like his fingernails were like sensitive to the touch because they had been on so long. Mm-hmm. And so we like had to like soak his fingers in like acetone. Yeah, the guy was a trooper for what we paid him, which was like a used Subway card.
Speaking along those lines, in one of my very first movies, I was working with a makeup artist, and she was splashing blood and whatever. And one of my guys had he had one bad eye and one good eye. And he was there. He was duct taped to a chair, and he's supposed to be like this dead body, like strapped to this chair or whatever. And they find him, and when she was spraying him with the non stain, so it has like detergent in it, blood, she like nailed him right in the eye, and he's like, oh, and like of course we cut him out, because like, what is worse then like stuff hitting you, right? Like you can't move. You're trapped in this spot and
You're
you're in
supposed to be
pain.
dead. Yeah.
So he started to panic. We cut him out, and we got him all cleared off and whatever. We still had to shoot with him the next day, and his eye was just all bloodshot.
Oh, God love him.
But it was, we were like, he looked at her the second day. He goes, I can't see out of this eye now. And she was like, what? Oh, I'm so sorry. And he goes, and I was like, he couldn't see out of that eye before. And she goes,
That's great. I think that's why we also do it, is just for the everlasting memories of the process. So,
yeah, like that's the same movie we drug my producer and co-owner of Rutledge Productions, like Steven Durgon. I grabbed him by his, like, we had somebody grab him by the legs and pull him back into spot because he was crawling forward, and then this thing happened. And then like, okay, well, let's do that take again. They drug him backwards, and then I realized after we got everything shot that we drug he army crawled through and got drugged back through broken glass and all of this other stuff, and he has the sleeves rolled up. And I'm just like, I literally, when I found that out, I had him stand up and I cleaned him up, and I was like, okay, check for cuts and make sure that there's nothing going on, and everything is okay. Like, it had me really paranoid, but now he was just like, oh yeah, you just dragged me through broken glass. And so it's the weird stuff on set that like you panic at that time, and afterward you kind of laugh.
Yeah. We just try to write ourselves into situations we know we can pull off, so we don't have to put anybody through torturous situations. I remember, when I first asked Ellie to do Satanic Soccer Mom, when she got back to me, she said, there's two reasons I'm doing it. I'm going to tell you straight up. She's like, first of all, the script's funny, and I want to do more funny things. She said, second of all, I don't have to be naked, cold, or screaming or like covered in goo. She said, so I can't wait. And I think that's when we finally realized that we knew we were doing stuff that other people wanted to do in the community. You know what I mean? Because I don't think back to I think where this all started from was, why aren't there more, horror comedy movies in like horror conventions? Because they really want to see the gross stuff first, and then I think they find projects like ours that are more of like a decompression process. We're like, holy shit, I just watched Terrifier 2 at Days of the Dead. I need to like see something silly and fun and lighthearted, but still has like that tone that I like. So yeah,
the conventions are amazing space. So like you can see like stuff like Terrifier 2 and this like on like in people's booths and like pick up these movies, and it's like right next to Holy Shit Man.
Yeah, right, or Dick Shark.
Yeah, and it's just like horror, like Holy Shit Man, like, oh my god, like what the hell? And like they're running around with a plunger and having, it's like a trauma meets gore going on in some of these things, and it's just like that's an atmosphere that's I enjoy. That's why I'd like to try to do as many conventions as we can, but we're actually filming Night Talkers like still. This is going to be our last year.
Okay.
We started last year, and then we got 2 more segments to sessions of filming, and then we'll be out and we'll be promoting that one.
Nice, exciting.
Have you been hitting the circuit?
Man, like it's just kind of one of those things where like when the project was done, I had missed a lot of the bigger ones, and we were really hoping to get into Days of the Dead in Atlanta, which is next weekend here in Georgia. But we didn't, and that's fine, because I know that George and Audrey are trying to really cultivate, a certain particular program, and we're really still, again, just toiling in the backwaters of indie cinema, as I said to you earlier, and we're learning to get better through that process. I think we're still going to submit for Horror Hound in the fall, their fall show. And then we'll probably be at Cinema Wasteland, hopefully October of this coming year for their October show. We won't make the April one.
Did you look at days in Indianapolis?
Well, they kind of do like a thing where it's like you submit one project for the whole what they call
for like the film festival stuff. Yeah.
yeah, they do like 2 shows for one, which I think is really cool because if you get into
Well,
one show, you get into both.
I was talking about like actually just setting up and
Oh, I'll be like a vendor.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, we only printed up 100 copies initially because even though we knew, we had some bigger pool names in the movie, we weren't quite sure. And you know how expensive it can be when you're doing through a production house like we did. Obviously
Yeah.
you're printing in-house, but we were paying close to $4 a copy out the door. So it's a substantial kind of situation where you have to make but we're getting ready to do another batch. I'll have some more ready. But I do, once I get back to Ohio, I really want to push the film again by re-entering it in some places that I can be present at and maybe some cast and sell some copies. But we think it's still kind of fun that it's kind of one of those things that is still a mythos about it. Like, have you seen it? Do you have a copy? How do you get one? But it's really,
yeah. Like it is definitely like everybody's like, oh, well, I got my copy. Yeah. It just
I
came
got
in
one.
the mail.
I've got them for sale. You can just hit me up and you'll have one in 3 to 5 days.
Awesome. I am going to hit you up and
No, I'm going to send you one. I'll send you one, Topher. Just send me your address, and I'll throw in Night Work too. So
awesome.
That you can check that out because that was kind of where we all started. I think it helps if you see Night Work and then see the progression, hopefully between 1 and 2. And actually, we kind of did something that I haven't really seen anybody else do. When we made Night Work in 2018, if you watch the very end of the credits, it actually says that the Midnight Film Company will return with Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio.
Nice.
We actually knew going into this that we had another one we wanted to do. And actually, when you watch, I don't know if you stuck around for the entire credits of Satanic Soccer Mom from Ohio, but we actually announced our 3rd project, which is He's Coming to Get You. So we're kind of trying to do some things that nobody else does, with at least like projecting ideas out there and getting them done without asking for funding. Because we kind of have these little side projects that we really want to do because they're just like in the back of our heads, like burning up. I actually have, if I'm being honest, and this is probably news to Ben Rieger, my business partner, but I have a 4th project that I'm this close to like bumping to the 3rd one because it's killing me inside not to make it. So yeah, it's a lot of fun just to be able to do whatever you want to do, and get it out there to people, and everyone just be super supportive. And I mean, you could put out the best steak out of a kitchen and someone's going to complain. You know what I mean? Right. So like we don't get hung up on that stuff. We know we're not making the best stuff. We're not making Tony Wash quality films. We're not doing Scott, Shermer movies or, anything like that. We're just trying to have fun and create a space where people can come and play with us and just, make something that it can make people laugh every now and then.
You're doing a great job with it. Now here's the part where like the wheels like unclick and because I'm just sitting here thinking about all of the projects that I'm trying to like. I have 4 scripts right now that I'm in the process of.
I'm sorry.
No. Just so it's like so I feel you when you said that that you have this 4th project that's burning, like, oh, I want to do, because
I know
I have I'm retooling the end of Night Talkers, so I got that on the plate. I come across this idea watching a music video. I really liked the costuming. And then it gave me an idea for a whole nother movie using that similar costuming.
Yeah.
So I started writing that, and I have this other like comedy bit thing that I was rummaging around that inspiration hit. And so I totally get the fact it's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that.
I know.
And I have a whole nother book to write too, because we have the Black Book is out, the Letters from Marshalltown is out. I got to finish Carnival, because we won't have anything new to promote in July if I don't get the book out. So
yeah, I do. Yeah, it sounds like you're just spewing at the brain like I am. If my superpower could be anything, it would be able to materialize screenplays by snapping my finger. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
It would be so awesome. But yeah, I dig it, man. I'm excited to see what you guys do in the future. And yeah, that's really fun, man. Just to have all those things in your back pocket. Like I'll eat better if I can just live long enough to get this idea.
It's because I know like we have the books, we have their movies, now have a comic book. Trying to raise the money for our second issue of that. It's going to be a 4-issue thing.
That's
and
cool.
Then still doing like the movies and whatnot. So it's just like
You
I
guys
wish
are
there was
like
4 of me sometimes.
You're like a conglomerate of things. I respect
I wish
it.
there was 4 of me. That way I could
Yeah,
just
right?
like you work on this, you work on
Yeah.
that.
Oh, my wife would hate if there were 4 of me.
I actually did a little short called Work Days where I order a clone.
Yes.
It was a 6-minute build up to just self-fellatio joke.
That's amazing. How can I see this?
It's on YouTube. Go Work Days.
Amazing. I'm going to. That's actually one of the things I want to do. I want to do like a 48-hour film festival. It's really big in Columbus. Columbus has a big one. 48-hour film fest. We've never done anything like that. I think that would be an absolute blast just to do.
Actually, I know some guys who they did this whole train thing.
Okay.
Like they had the idea and all this stuff. All that they needed to do was like, okay, we'll tweak it versus what prompts we need and what edges. Like, so they built a train car in the top of a building and green screened the windows and then like sent somebody out to record footage from a train window so they could have it moving at the right speed. So they put that in back and then they just did the whole thing right there in the train car.
That is wild. See, that's again, I think it's just little things like that just you'll find a space. Like as a filmmaker, like you'll come across a space or you'll think of something and you're like, I have to do this. I don't care what anyone thinks if it's good or not. I just have to get it off my brain and be done with it. You know what I mean? Like it was such a huge relief to have the second movie done and locked in. Like it's just, and then once it's out there, if you take any sort of negativity or positivity personal towards the project, then you're completely losing the whole spectrum of why you should be making movies in the first place. It's
right. No, like filmmakers
know,
we know.
Yeah.
Like we know what's wrong.
Oh God. We listen to everyone complain about movies that are really good or semi-decent that have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of budget. And people complain about those. And you're like, have you seen my movie? Because if you watched my movie, you would think that movie was fucking amazing.
or the people that don't get indie filmmakers or indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
And expect, or like, oh, well, what they do? Spend like $5 on this thing?
Yes.
No, probably because
Probably
like we don't have the budget.
Yeah.
I think one episode or one of the letters from the ABCs of Death was almost just one episode or one like A or B or C was more money than our first film.
Oh, absolutely.
Our first feature film cost less than what they were paying for ABCs of Death. So
I guarantee you we didn't spend more than $5,000 on Satanic Soccer Mom. I guarantee, like the biggest chunk was paying the talent and flying people because we had people coming from Georgia, Chicago, Michigan for that one big shoot with all the Karens that weekend that we had Ellie town. But yeah, I mean, just like I said, to reiterate the echoings of Brian Williams, pick up something, go make it, just do it, and because if you are thinking that you're not going to be great, you're probably not going to be great the first one, but the second one or the third one, you get better and better. And maybe by the fourth or fifth one, you're like, hey, people actually like this stuff. You know what I mean? And people are hitting up your booth at a con. And I actually haven't even been able to experience that. Neither myself or Ben been able to have a table at a convention, talk to people, sell the movie. I think Cinema Wasteland will be our first opportunity this coming October. So we'll probably split a booth with Kyle Pucher because he's offered to do so. Yeah.
It is I know he fell in love with convention stuff, and I know he hit us up and like, hey, I said, we do too much when we're at a booth. So
Yeah.
like we come in and get rid of our inventory, and we come in with like 4 or 5 big boxes that just sit under the table. But we have a screen behind us and backdrops and all of this stuff, and which I think we change it up every year to something new. So I think we're gonna like redesign the booth a little bit to see if like how we can get it to look even cooler.
That's cool, man. I dig that. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to put together something at some point, but you guys are already light years ahead of where we'll be.
What's funny is coming from here, like I don't really think of it that way, because I mean, we started in 2014, but I mean it's only 4 years,
Yeah. I guess you're not wrong, but like you said, you guys are tapping into so many different mediums already, and it sounds like you guys have your distribution squared away and everything. Like I said, we're just kind of having fun, and just it's fun to be a part of the community, really, in any way. And anytime somebody hits me up that I don't know, asking to see the movie or wanting a copy, it's just worth every painstaking thing that we went through trying to get it done. And honestly, we had a blast, and I think that translates so well in the film.
Oh yeah, no, like you can see it in everybody's faces, like and one of the things you said that you like trust the cast. That's wholly where I come. I wouldn't cast you if I didn't think you would be able to do the thing. So I trust you where you're wanting to explore with that character. I may have like notes in the sense of like, okay, on this last take you did this, I really liked that, can we do that again in this take but change up this section? But for the most part, like I trust my actors to because they've lived with the script at least for a month or two before we were filming, so they've gotten off book and they've gotten comfortable, and they kind of got the idea of who this person is, and like I said with Jason, he came in and just I said, these two characters are friends, you're more of the comic relief, yada yada yada. Here, like, you kind of have like a Jason Mewes style character, and and he boom nailed it,
locked
right off the bat.
Yeah, it was great because I when I approached Jason about being in the movie, I was like, how could you say no to this? You don't have to say anything. You're like this mysterious guy. And there was a little bit longer of a scene at the end where Jason's character Jack was driving the cab at the end of the movie. There was a little bit longer of an exchange between him and the passenger, but we were on a super busy road and some of the audio just wasn't clean. So I thought, hey, it drives home the point of what happened. But Jason just loved being able to kind of sink into these scenes where he didn't have to really, he was just kind of existing. And I think that was kind of fun for him to not have to be like at the forefront of it. Because I kind of gave everyone something that they really wanted. Ellie wanted to kind of come back and do something in indie film that was funny and wasn't her screaming or running around or being covered in goo. So I think that's why she came back. Brian did it because he just wanted to play like this really mischievous character. Like, well, hey, here's the makeup, here's the script. Him and Grace were just so electric on screen together that once we got them together, we knew that it was going to be funny, no matter kind of what really happened with everything, just because they look so good together just on screen, him in full makeup and her just kind of soccer mommed out. But yeah, a lot of fun for sure, and I appreciate everybody who spent any time away from their friends and family to come and bring our silly little idea to life.
So where can they get a hold of you? You go ahead and tell them, and then I'll also put it in the thing below.
Trying to get no glare here. You can get copies directly actually from me. Topher's going to design us a website, from what I learned prior to this for the astounding price of $3.99. No, I'm just kidding. But we don't have a website, but you can direct message the Midnight Film Company on Facebook. and we will ship you out a copy. They're $25 shipped, which is, I think, is a great deal. You can, for 10 more bucks, we'll throw in a copy of our first film, Nightwork, which is another horror comedy we made with Brian Papandrea and some local talent, Scott Wood and Virgil Schnell. Scott actually plays the devil in Satanic Soccer Mom, and he's sort of our main hero in Nightwork. So yeah, you can hit me up and I'll ship you out a copy, and then hopefully we'll have some convention appearances here later in 2023.
I do have to say, Scott Wood, like, he gave off Shooter McGavin energy when he came in as the devil.
As the devil.
Yeah,
that's great. He's really fantastic in Nightwork. And, you know, while Nightwork may not be for everybody, there is some really funny shit in there. And those guys aren't actors. They're just hardworking. Like, well, Scott had worked at Honda for 35 years and never even thought about acting. Virgil, who plays the husband of Karen in Satanic Soccer Mom, he's like a magic-oriented sort of blundering character in Nightwork. So I keep bringing these people back just because they were born to do it, but no one knows who they are. You know, obviously people like Grace, where she just steals the show, you know, like, because she's just so good on camera. And that is literally her second movie ever. And the first one was Nightwork. But now she's been in Spooky Dookie. She's actually going to be in Jason Crowe's The Zombie Movie. Nice. So it's fun to see someone like Grace get some love from other little factions of indie filmmakers around the Midwest, and kind of see her being utilized, because she's ice cold. For sure.
All right. Well, like I said, you can hit the links in below and get access to go pick up a couple of these things. Check them out. This is Kyle Rayburn, and I am Topher, the Paranormal Hobo, and you've been sitting listening in the Crypt. So come back next week and we'll be right here. Peace.